as the metal moves, I've bounced up and he's like very elegant, like, yeah. But it does it in this moment where it looks like my back snaps and the sound hits at the same time. My mum like vomited in her mouth.
Hey folks, do you love your footy? Are you over 35 and want to be part of something very special on Anzac Day in 2025 in Gallipoli? Well, check this out.
The Slugs plan to play men's and women's games here at this soccer ground, the closest to the Gallipoli battlefields during the 2025 commemorations. The idea to make it spectacular, to fill this entire area with Aussie Anzac pilgrims. Vincent Malia tours with the Southern Slugs. Footy, he says, is perfect to honour the Diggers.
They would love it, I'm sure, because it's bringing Australia over there, isn't it?
Well, this year at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, she did her very first solo show. She is a comedian, writer, actress. She's done it all. Actually, I've got her own podcast as well. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Hannah Sainty, welcome to Comedy Legends of Bevo for the first time.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with the legend himself. Thank you very much.
Takes one to know one. So, perhaps we'll just start with what we were just chatting about a couple of moments ago.
Yeah.
I still don't even know how the heck you did this, but you've actually recorded a film underwater.
I did. I made
Can
it.
you please explain this, how you did that and what this is all about?
Totally explain that. So I made it on the HMAS Canberra, which was an Australian Navy ship that was scuttled in the Port Phillip, Melbourne, Port Phillip Bay. And I wrote this film, which is based off of an experience I had whilst being a diver. And I made it as one of my uni projects. And I had to fight with the university because they're like, it's not safe. And I'm like, safety divers, it'll be all right. Don't worry about it. And I made this film on a shipwreck 32 meters underwater, where the main point of the story is my dive buddy, because when you go diving, you have to go in pairs.
Yeah.
Where my dive partner attacks me for my regulator because he runs out of air. So we had to have a fight on the hull of the ship.
Oh my goodness.
And this guy, I had to film it twice. And the second actor that I had play the my buddy, he went, because I met him 20 minutes before going on the boat. I said, quickly read this script and then I'll somehow mime direct you underwater. And then he's like, okay, cool. I'm like, the point is, I said, when you have to attack me, I said, don't pussyfoot around it. I need you to attack me. I need this to look real, because the last guy buggered it up. He looked like he was my dad, patting me down and seeing if okay. I'm like, I need you to attack me. And he's like, no problem. And then holy shit, did he attack me. I sucked in, we're on the hull of the HMAS Canberra, 32 meters underwater, and he literally grabbed it, ripped it out, and then I just sucked in heaps of water.
What the?
And then I was trying to get it back off him because I'm like, no, I still need it. And then I'm like, but then it turned out the best footage. It was great. I eventually got it back, and then we, came back up. But all of us ran out of air while we were filming it. My cameraman, my co-actor, and me, we all ran out of air. So we're all tangled in tubes. I had not much air, so I was sucking on it, it was sucking through a straw, there's nothing. And then my actor, he had no air, so he was drinking off the pony bottle of my my cameraman, which is the emergency bottle. And my cameraman, who had 2 tanks, was already running low. So there's footage somewhere of us all tangled in these tubes, goodness. Just trying to get up to the surface. And obviously, because you're diving, you can't just go up to the top because you'll explode your brain. So you have to do it slowly. And we're just
Wasn't that scary?
Nah.
No. What?
Nah, you're going to be a bit, a bit cooked, I suppose.
Well, this is the same person that we're talking about that loves bungee jumping and said it's easy.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Not the first time it wasn't. I've been thinking about I should release the footage of the first time I went bungee jumping.
Where'd you go?
So it was in New Zealand, and it's the first bungee jump that was made in New Zealand, which is just known as the bridge. I was afraid of heights. I'm 16, afraid of heights, but I'm like, I've got to do this thing. And I'm standing there and I'm looking off the bridge and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. And then the guys are fixing all the ropes. They're like, yep, go. And I was like, no. And they're like, no, you got to go. And I'm like, no, I can't go. And they're like, okay, well then come back. I'm like, no, I have to do it. And they're like, okay, do it. And I'm like, okay, no, can't do it. And then this went on for I reckon probably 5 minutes. And Hannah, you don't have to do it, just come back. And I was like, no, I have to do it. And then they tried all these different techniques. They like started stomping on the thing to try and like scare me to jump off. And I was like, I know what you're doing, get out of it. The only thing that made me jump, I'm like, this is how much of a people pleaser I am. they're like, Hannah, other people are waiting. And I went, oh, true. And then I jumped, but I didn't even jump. Like I went to jump, but then my legs just didn't want to party. And I tipped. I just tipped off the edge, and it's the most embarrassing footage in the whole world because I like tip off like this fucking board, like just falling off. And then you would think once you get down to the bottom and then like you're bouncing back up, you might get a bit loose. No, I'm still just like bouncing around like this, and it's horrendous. And then I realized how badly I did it. So I was like, right, I got to do it again. I went and did it again and then relaxed, and then I became an adrenaline junkie.
That's insane. And how many times have you bungeed since then?
Oh, I did. Well, I only did it like while I was there because it's the best ones. But like you can go and do Nevis, which is like the tallest. I don't know if it's the tallest in the world. I think it was at the time. But you have to go in this little shuttle on 2 wires that's suspended in between a canyon and sit on this little rickety thing. And you have to like sit in this chair and they load your legs into the chair. It's like you're being executed. And they're like, you have to jump when we tell you because the wind has to be right. Otherwise it ruins everything. I was like, oh, all right. So I get over the edge and you can see every single rock that you're going to smash your face on. I was like, all right, well, and they're like, jump. And I'm like, jump, yeah.
How high up were you?
I don't know. We'll have to Google that. It was a lot. It was a lot. I mean, it was very high, but it was low enough that I could see sharp edges, you know, like what's really funny is that I didn't tell my mum that I was going to bungee jump when I went to New Zealand. She was like, one promise. And I was like, what's that? She was like, don't bungee jump. I'm like, okay. So I sent her a postcard of me bungee jumping. But when I got back to Australia, it hadn't arrived. So I had to hold on to my little secret for 2 weeks while I checked the mailbox every day waiting to see when my little sneaky like, gotcha, mum.
Because there would have been no social media back in those days.
No, there was no social media. And then I came home from school one day and then my mum was like, what is this? And I was like, oh yeah. She's like, you promised me. And I'm like, yeah, do you want to see the video though? And she's like, fine. And I showed her this video and the one where I jump off Nevis, like I'm all like loosey-goosey in this one. I'm like, yeah, whatever about heights. And like as I bounce back up, because the footage is recorded like from the shuttle thing itself, you can hear all of the like the iron and things moving for like the rope. Oh. So the footage from like that's like in this little camera that's in like the I don't know like on the cliffside as that's filming you can hear everything moving, and as the metal moves, I've bounced up and it's like very elegant, like yeah, but it does it at this moment where it looks like my back snaps and the sound hits at the same time. My mum like vomited in her mouth. She was just like, oh my God. And I was like, no, I'm here. I'm okay. Look, got it back. It's all good. It's all good. It's just a sound effect. And then she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks.
That's absolutely crazy.
Awkward household. Yeah.
So I presume you've done skydiving and other crazy things as well,
yep.
Hannah? Yeah. Oh,
the skydiving, the guy tried to make me scared in the footage. This was footage. And I'm like, yeah, let's get out. And then he's just like, how are you feeling? I'm like, pretty good. He's like, you nervous? I'm like, nah. And he's like, it's high. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Let's get out there.
So you're literally not scared of heights. You're a complete opposite to me. That's amazing.
Just the exposure. It's like spiders, you know? Yeah.
Well, I must admit, like when I went to Kentucky with the boys back in 2011 and they went to the very top of the Eiffel Tower and I just whisked out and I never heard the end of it. So yeah. So no, I'm completely scared of heights.
You have to do it then. Just gotta work your way up. Yeah,
it's one of those things, isn't it? You just have to sort of overcome.
Yeah.
And where can people see the underwater film? Because that just sounds amazing.
It's on, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube. I've got to re-release it. There's an entire story around that film, but I will re-release it. It'll be on YouTube.
Love that.
Watch this space.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Before we talk more about this year, because it's been a great one for you, except for a couple of months ago where you got bitten by a dog, but we'll speak about that one afterwards. But let's go back to where it all began with you in terms of when you finished high school and you said before that you wanted to be an actor and where did that all begin and where did the comedy thing come about, Hannah? Tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. Comedy for me started well before school. Like some of my earliest memories were I was writing like little skits to perform to my family, and like every single Christmas was like Live at the Apollo for me. I was like, watch this. And I'd make my cousins be in it. I just like used to write these comedy plays. So I was always writing comedy as a kid, even though I had no idea what I was doing. And there was like this home like camcorder that we had, and nobody would ever put the batteries in it for me. And I'm a child, but I'm like, I want to make movies. Anyway, so then the first ever camera phone came out, and I just started making like comedy videos with my camera phone. And I wanted to be an actor that whole time. All through primary school, I was always performing in every single thing. In high school, I was doing all the extra curricular activities to be an actor. But I mean, I've got this whole story about this. But when I was at high school, our drama teacher, especially in year 12, we didn't have one, which is very hard to study when there's nobody to tutor you when you're supposed to get marks that nobody can give you. So what happened was we ended up with this teacher who, not a nice person to say the least, but he didn't tell us the syllabus. So we actually literally had to go and buy the teacher's book to know what exactly was needed for us, because we went off on our own tangent making something, and it was only because we had an external tutor come in, and he was like, what are you making? This isn't a part of what you have to create this year. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said it was, and he's like, no, oh my god. So we went and bought this book, and we had 7 days to write an ensemble piece and perform it, and we did it. And then on that very night, right after we got off stage, right after someone came up to us and said, would you guys be willing to turn this into a full-length play and perform it like at the art centre and stuff, we got told that we failed.
No.
Yeah, because he was like, the teacher said you didn't hand in your folio. And we're like, what folio? And he's like, you're supposed to have one. And we're like, no one told us. So my mum, who was ethnic, was like, I'm not having any of that. And she went down to the school, blasted the principal, and the principal gave us 48 hours to create this portfolio of work, of like 6 months of work. So then it was myself and 4 of my friends. We sat around a table for 48 hours, and because I've always kept a diary, I was like the person that was on the like what we did and when. And I was like writing them, I'd write like 3 different parts for them. So we all had these little bits of how to create this portfolio. And we didn't sleep for the 48 hours because it was the only way to get it done. And I drank 12 Red Bulls in a row while staring at a white screen, and had like some weird fit. It was real strange. Like I was like shaking, convulsing, and my friend's like, and he puts me on the bed, and I'm like, what am I going to do while I'm here? And he's like, I don't know.
You wouldn't have slept after that, I can imagine.
Anyway, we like handed in this portfolio, and I haven't slept in 48 hours, right? And what happens when you haven't slept? Like you seem like a little bit, like you're not yourself. You're a bit off.
Yeah.
So I was at school. I'm handing this portfolio. I like couldn't give a shit about school because I'm like, oh my god, I need to go to sleep. And then I got called into the like coordinator's office, and they sent me home for being drunk.
What?
And I was like, so that was my start with acting. Needless to say, obviously didn't get into a degree for acting because I had no official skills to get in. So then began my whole world of like self-study to become an actor. So read lots of books. I've done lots and lots of like courses. Like I moved over to England and did courses in England. I've done lots of like observations. You can do that with like really big teachers. So like a fantastic acting teacher who's named Larry Moss, who coaches people like Leonardo DiCaprio and those sorts of people. Whoa. I used to pay to go and watch people like him teach actors. So I would learn that way as well. And went to film school to put myself in film. So all self-taught, very DIY person I am.
That's so cool. Yeah. And did you have like influence along the way in terms of your comedy and your acting as well?
Yeah, like as in like
idols, influences, people that sort of
Kath and Kim, man. Yeah. I loved Kath and Kim so hard. Well, I remember I like wrote a couple of characters that were very, very much like Kath and Kim inspired when I was like, around like 14 or something like that. Who else? I mean, like lots of stand-up. I used to love like Noel Fielding and Ross Noble, those sorts of guys, like very obtuse and strange people, just quirky, that they use a lot of art in their work as well, especially Noel Fielding, lots of sort of like surrealist creative artworks and stuff like that.
And when did you first start getting into comedy?
I got into comedy. I did my first gig in January. Who was it? January 2020.
So yeah, you're still like a real Like
I'm a
you're
baby.
yeah.
Yeah, because then we
Yeah.
had COVID and I was in Melbourne, so we were locked down for like 2 years. So basically, I've only been doing comedy for 2 years. Yeah, that was a wild time.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And like, was there like, did your family? You said before you've always had that passion for comedy and stuff like that. Was your family always like, you know, supportive of you and saying, yeah, you need to do this, or were they like, no, you're not that funny? Because you know how brothers and sisters and, and families and stuff can be like pretty harsh at times.
Absolutely. Do you know what's funny? Like, I've done so many different things in my life because all I wanted to do was be a performer, but like I hit all these walls. So I was like, maybe I'm just not supposed to. So I went and did a whole bunch of other different things. And everyone around me was like, oh, yeah, you're doing that thing now. Oh, yeah, no problem. The second I said, I'm doing comedy, everyone went, that makes sense. And I was like, what? And like people, like when I was living in England that, you know, they weren't even friends that I'd had for a really long time. People were like, no, this makes heaps of sense. And I was like, that's very validating. Cool. Yeah. So if anything, it was like the thing that really spurred me on more. Yeah.
And what about the acting side of things? Like you've done like TV commercials and stuff. Have you been on Neighbours or Home and Away or anything?
No, God, no. I became like a really infamous like extra in TV commercials in like, I think it was like 2013, because I was working I worked in a production company and then I worked in an advertising agency, and I knew all the people that were in production in Melbourne at that time. And so because I was always on set because of production, they'd be like, we need someone in the background. Hannah, get in there. And I was like, nah. And then I'd have editors and like, oh my God, you're in the back of every single ad campaign that I work on, no matter what studio I'm at. And I'm like, meh. And there's like a few other extra ones where they were like, I don't know, I got the call like the night before a shoot for a TV commercial where the director called me. He's like, I hated the one that we filmed today. Can you do it tomorrow? And I was like, I haven't performed in like 3 years, but okay, great. That's also when I learned to like coffee, really randomly. Yeah.
And you still do a little bit of acting now as well, or comedy is your main focus?
So I still do a lot of acting now. So I moved to England in 2019 to pursue acting. And I was working in immersive theatre as an actor and lots of different things over there. And once I came back, I was literally only coming back to Australia to do a film contract in production and for Christmas. And then COVID happened. And I'd always wanted to do stand-up comedy. And I thought, well, while I'm in Australia, I'll just give that a go. And that's how it kind of took off. And then so from there, I was still doing like acting and comedy. And then comedy took over for a bit while I was learning the craft. And now I'm doing a little bit more acting as well. So the two are kind of too big, come on, you know.
Yeah. And what's the plans? Like, what's your ultimate goal with your acting? Have you got something where you're just like, that's my dream gig?
Yeah. Do you know Phoebe Waller-Bridge? No, she's a like fantastic writer and performer. She wrote a TV show called Fleabag, and it's just fantastic. It's just a wicked like English comedy show, and that was originally a one-woman comedy play. So I've got lots of different dreams, but one of which is like I'm writing a one-person comedy play that I want to get turned into a TV show.
I love that.
Yeah,
I could so see you on like Thank God You're Here, or like Have You Been Paying Attention, or something like that. So,
you know, as a kid, I was like, if I ever get on Have You Been Paying Attention, I've made it. Sorry, guys.
TV is so much fun though. Like, my wife absolutely hates it, but I've been on like 9 Life before on Find Me a Dream Home Australia, and I had to look at 3 different houses and choose my dream home. And the funniest thing is, like, I was actually pretending to be a GP as well from the Riverland, which is regional South Australia, and then I was a bachelor, and like it was just.
Wait, did they know that you were faking it?
Yeah, totally. Like I literally only found out about 2 days earlier, so it was pretty rushed,
funny.
but it was so much fun, and yeah, it was the best. So I love that sort of stuff, and I've been an extra and like. Please Like Me Before, you know, the show on the ABC.
Yeah,
and
it was a great show. Yeah. That's so fun. I have to watch you now. I'm going to find you.
That was so random. Like, yeah, I'll have to tell you another time about what I did, but it was pretty funny. So.
Which I can imagine. I know the show.
Yeah, it's pretty out there. But anyway, this is about you, not about me. But the comedy side of things, yeah. So tell us about gig number 1. Where was it? And tell us about the nerves going into that first gig as well, Hannah.
The nerves on the first gig, like they were big nerves. They were hard to swallow nerves. I mean, it was great because it was like I had lots of family and friends there, and so did everybody else that was there as well. So there was that kind of that sense of community. So it was kind of okay. So I felt really, really nervous, but I also felt like kind of comfortable because I'm comfortable on a stage. Like that doesn't faze me. The gig number 2 was the hard one. Gig number 1 was great. Gig number 2 was in a bar underground where nobody was there except for comics. And this is my second gig ever. And there's just someone in the corner just wanting to eat a burger. And I was like, oh, comedy is very hard. So that was a bomb. And then from there, it goes back up.
Has there been gigs where you've just, totally like bombed out or like you've forgotten your lines for a gig or forgotten a joke or something like that? And how do you overcome that as well?
Yeah, I mean, it does happen. Sometimes your brain just likes to mess with you, I suppose. It just likes to just go, meh, see what you can do. I mean, everybody, depending on where you're at in your career, like everybody's going to bomb sometimes because when you do new material, it's not funny. It's not. It can get funny, or sometimes it might be funny the first time, isn't it? Then it's not funny the second time. Comedy's great at keeping you humble. But normally, like you want to avoid having an entire bomb. So you always like sandwich it in between two good bits so you can kind of save yourself. In saying that, no, you can definitely forget entire jokes. Like this happens constantly sometimes, especially if you're nervous, and it depends on how you manage stress. But like it's happened to me before where I've just forgotten a joke and then I've got other backup jokes that I have for if I've forgotten a joke, which somehow only exist when I've forgotten a joke. So thanks, brain. That's good. And then also, there was a gig that I've spoken about before, which was I was emceeing a show in my hometown, which is Frankston Legends. And as I was emceeing, I like went to go into my next joke. Like I was like mid-sentence and it went complete like flatline 51st Dates, like Drew Barrymore kind of vibe, like nothing there, nothing. And I was like, oh no. And then I was like, be witty. I've got nothing, guys. And then I got a laugh. I was like, great. Still nothing. And then I had to turn to the comics that I'm introducing. I had to turn to them and be like, guys, can you look at my notebook over there? I think it's like halfway down. Can you just tell me the name of that joke? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I was like, hang on a minute, to the crowd. And I just like ran off stage. I sprinted for my life. And then looked at the book and went, hey, and then walked back on. I'm like, are you ready? And everyone's like, yeah. And I'm like, I really hope it's worth it. And it was fine.
That's impressive because you must have been absolutely crapping yourself at that stage.
I kind of was. And then I just got annoyed. I was really like mad at my brain. I was like, why would you do this to me at this point in time? So I was having like an internal battle as well as nerves. So
I want to ask you another one as well because I've emceed weddings before, right? And I've told a story and one half of the room is absolutely pissing themselves laughing and the other half look like they're about ready to stab you because they're just like, really angry and not finding it funny whatsoever. How do you deal with those situations?
I suppose like sometimes just calling it out will make it, you can kind of appease people that way. Like, oh, you don't like it? Why don't you like it? Like, did this happen to you? Are you like the culprit? Like, have you done this before? Like just making it funny and acknowledging it. Because sometimes if you just try and go over the top of it, it's the same as like, I don't know, like if your partner does something that's really annoys you and they just, I don't know, beat around the bush. And you're like, can you just say sorry or something, like just acknowledge it. And then normally that can like kind of appease it. And there's lots of other different techniques, just like pivoting and, using other material that's maybe a little bit more palatable for a wide range of people and personalities. Yeah, there's a few different tools, but it definitely just depends on reading the room and also knowing yourself in the room.
Because that would be my biggest fear, I reckon, like doing comedy. And I was supposed to do a warm-up gig for Jared earlier this year, who, he totally like was not happy with me at all because I bailed. And one of the biggest fears was, exactly that, just because I'd tell a joke and not get any laughs. So, I don't know. I've got so much respect for comedians like yourself that are able to overcome those situations.
Just sometimes this is why I love comedy. It's not something that is ever predictable. It's like it humbles you every single night and you are only ever as good as your last gig, right? And it's just important every time that you're performing, you just see each person as a fresh new face, fresh new crowd. What can I give to them? So important to be like reading the room and understanding what sorts of things that they're responding to and then telling them jokes. If they don't like them, that's okay. Sometimes people don't even realize a joke has happened. So depending on the situation, you can just keep going because nobody knew that there was a joke there.
And do you get hecklers as well?
Yes. But I didn't get heckled. I think for like the first year of comedy.
Wow.
And I was like, this is not good. What's going to happen? Because I kept getting like, I was like getting better gigs. And I was like, what if I'm on like a pretty decent gig and someone yells some stuff out at me and I'm just like, oh no.
I've got nothing.
Got nothing. I'm just like groper fish, just stand there like, what? Like, I was like, I've got to seek this out. So I started like seeking out like the rough rooms in Melbourne. Because obviously there's different tiers of rooms in comedy, like as in like you might just go and do like your never said it on stage, maybe you've never said it out loud before jokes that it's just like a really, no judgment, just space that people go and say stuff and you hear really cooked things in there. And then there are some that are notoriously like they've just got the demographic where people just want to talk to you or yell at you. So I went and I was like, I need to get heckled. That was my mission. I was like, I must get heckled. And I booked this gig in Melbourne and the room runner said to me, he's like, yep, great, you're on. He's like, don't worry about your set because they'll chuck you off anyway. So just go in. And I was like, all right, this is what I want. And I got there and I was there. This was like during Melbourne Comedy Festival, Melbourne International Comedy Festival. And one of my friends was performing before me. And he just got demolished. Like they just hammer and tonged him, wouldn't let him off the hook at all. And he tried a few different techniques to get him off his back and that. And, he got like the rest of the crowd enough, but there was just like, it set a tone. And he came off stage and he's like, oh my God, Hannah. And I was like, oh, that looked painful. And he's like, it's so mean. He's like, I want to give something to you to help you, but I have nothing to give you. And I was like, no, I got this. And I went up there and there was like two dudes who sat like so close to me in the front row and they were the ones that started heckling me. And they looked like they wouldn't heckle me. Like they looked like quite like, I don't know, like nice and, chilled or whatever. But they were just brutal and just like at me. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm here for, baby. And so I started badly just having a go back at them. I'm new to this and I'm a people pleaser. So I'm like, I don't know how to be mean.
Can you explain a bit more? Because I want to hear more about this.
I was just sort of like, what were they even saying? Oh, I think they were just saying really basic stuff of like, that's not funny or whatever. I'm like, oh, have you got anything better? Or, does your mum love you? These sorts of silly little things. And then as I was doing this, the strange thing happened because as they kept having a go at me, I just sort of said, like, you don't have to be here. I want to be here, but if you don't want to, you can leave. And the rest of the crowd wanted to hear my jokes, which was really nice, and a couple of key people. And it got to this point where other people in the crowd started telling the people in the front row who were heckling me to shut up. So then I had happy hecklers at the back. I had angry hecklers at the front. And I was like, what do I do? Well, I'm holding the microphone. And it got to the point where these other people like yelled at them and then stood up and then like came over and like shuffled them out of the room. Whoa. And they were like, yeah, Hannah, and high-fived me. And they're like, all right, keep going. And I was like, okay.
That is epic.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was my first time getting heckled properly.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That doesn't happen all the time. I don't want to make it sound like that's the norm. Definitely not. Definitely not. Heckling is sometimes hard. Do you know what? The nice hecklers are the hard ones.
Yeah, well, I've been to shows before where Arj Barker's just like kicked people out. Like he's brutal. Like he just people just piss him off. He's like, get out of here. So
yeah, I mean, there's degrees of it. Sometimes people are just having a good time, and every time you can kind of pick when someone's going to be a problem, and then you want to, because you don't want the night ruined for the rest of the crowd. Basically, it's like you're looking out for them more than anything. Yeah. Yeah,
because like I've seen a couple of your shows, and you absolutely kill it. And I remember seeing like when you were first starting, and you're opening up for Jared, and like I was like, wow. Looks like you've been doing it for years. So
thanks.
Do you enjoy that crowd interaction? Because you have some comedians who, like, to hear, for example, like interviewing him and he just loves, like, chatting to the crowd and getting that interaction and loves the banter and that sort of thing. Is that something you thrive on as well?
I do like it. It's a very specific skill set in comedy that I do enjoy. I'm trying to get much better at it. So in comedy, like obviously there's different areas like, writing jokes and performing jokes and stage presence. There's all, I mean, if you want to break it down, there's lots of layers to being a comedian. And crowd work is a very specific one that I love. I love watching it and I love doing it. And I have a lot of fun with it. That's probably the most scary thing to me in comedy. No, it is. It is. It is actually the scariest thing in comedy to me because I'm always just like, what if whatever comes out of my mouth is just not funny? What happens? I can't wing it. Like, I'm an epic nerd, right? Like, I'm like, do my homework. Like, now I'm out here just not doing homework. What do you mean? What do you mean we're winging it while we're speaking? But I love it. I do love a challenge. So I'm constantly trying to give myself more opportunity to do that. Yeah.
I love that. And this year was your very first solo show at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. Congratulations on that. That's
Thank you.
an amazing achievement, especially, like I said, only been doing it for a few years. What was it like? What was the show all about, and how did it all go?
So I don't know if you've picked this throughout our interview, but I like to put myself in the deep end, both figuratively and literally. The show was about stalking. So it was called Hannah Sainty, Look Who's Stalking Now. And basically I told a whole bunch of stories about all the times I have been stalked. So not like Baby Reindeer, he was stalked by one person. I got a few. So I told this like, it's got like a narrative basis to it where I'm telling these stories, and it's a dark comedy. And what's really crazy about the show, and I thought, why on earth have I done this to myself? Is like, it's fine to have dark comedy, right? You might go and see a dark comedy show, but normally that's about like varied topics. And I was like, I'm just drilling down on this one topic. But I saw that as a challenge for myself to kind of go, well, can I make it funny and poignant at the same time? And so I wrote this show, and like I had key objectives that I wanted to get out of it. Like I was like, I want people to walk away saying that was really funny, and I can't stop thinking about it. And I really wanted it to be something that sort of like brewed on people and worked with them over the coming days to think about like the way that they engage in society and the people around them and their dynamics. And I was really, really, really pleased to say that I heard those words from multiple people, and I was like, it happened.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Something you should be very proud of.
Thank you. Yeah. So it was a funny show that was really hectic at a bunch of parts of it, because it's surprisingly hard to make that funny.
Yeah, I know. That's
in a way that's respectful at the same time, you know, like obviously being aware that like I wrote the show because of just how prevalent stalking is. And so I wanted to write something that honors people who experience these things, but also makes it funny in a way that can then disarm people to listen and actually feel empowered to do something about it, whether it's for themselves or for the people around them.
Is that what the show is tonight here at the Rhino Room and going forward as well, or are you doing new material now? Oh,
no, this is other stuff. So it's basically like that show, and then I've just got a whole bunch of other material, and I'm writing a different show, and, you know, just bits of. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And what was that experience like, you know, doing your first solo show at such a big festival, like one of the biggest world festivals comedy for comedians, really? So
mortifying.
Yeah.
It was really amazing. It was really cool. It was like really scary because obviously, you know, like a small time comic, like I've traveled around, I've got like a little fan base, but I was like, oh, how am I going to like sell all these tickets, and how am I going to make sure these people like having an hour of me? Because I didn't have an MC, I had no opening acts, it was literally just me. Like you walk in, here I am for 55 minutes, you can't get out of the room. I mean, you can, but I locked the door, so figure it out. So it was really nerve-wracking. But I'm one of those people, I don't know, I'm very masochistic. I work well under that sort of stress and pressure, and I kind of try to use it to my advantage. And I really, really enjoyed it.
We've got a podcast called You're Weird.
I do have a podcast.
What's all this about?
So the podcast is called You're Weird because I used to get called weird as a child because I just had lots of creative ideas. I'd be like, oh, I'm going to do this and and I'd make all these costumes and write these shows. And obviously when there's other kids that, you know, are not your people, they would be like, oh, you're weird. And I'm like, yeah, at least my parents aren't cousins. But I thought, oh, that's like one of the key things. Like, you know, I used to work in advertising and marketing, and that's what you're always looking for. You're looking for the USP, the unique selling point, which in people terms, that's the thing that makes you weird, right? And it's the thing, like if you want to be an artist or a performer, it's the thing that sets you apart from other people. So if anything, being weird is a superpower. And I thought, okay, that's what I'll call the podcast, because I wanted to make this podcast for other creatives who experience resistance, which is every single creative. So it doesn't matter what discipline of creativity that you're in, whether you're a painter, a sculptor, a stand-up comedian, an actor, a writer, everyone experiences the exact same resistances in some sort of capacity. And at the time I was coming back into creativity, I'd already started stand-up comedy, but there was lots of elements of creativity that I was still finding a lot of resistance in, because, you know, as a child, I'd been a writer and actor as a child and a teenager and those sorts of things. But after I had worked in advertising and I had a really bad workplace experience, I thought, no, I've tried everything in creativity. I think I'm just not supposed to do this. I think the universe is saying, nah, bro, just go do something else. So I went and I worked in health and became a yoga teacher and a masseuse and blah. Anyway, moving on. But I went and did that for a long time thinking I'm just not supposed to be creative. But the weird thing is that like everyone is creative. And especially I think if you were someone who is more creatively and artistically inclined, it will just come like spurting out the edges. Because I was working in health and I remember I was working at a health food shop at the time and I was working in a natural clinic and stuff too. And I was trying to be very serious. I was like, no, I just look after people. I'm here for health. And then it came out the edges in the form of an anonymous Instagram account that I started called Corrupted Veggies.
What the heck?
Yeah, which is basically I would go to the farmer's market and then pick out all of the most obscure looking fruits and vegetables, and I take them home and put them in scenes and take photos of them and then post them. And it went off. It was great. And it was all anonymous. Nobody knew it was me, and I was doing all these like stupid shots, and I started making films out of them. And I remember it all started with I found like these 3 carrots, and I was like, these carrots look like a band. So I went and I got like pipe cleaners and like made little guitars and stuff and put it on them, and then I got like a foil reflective, and I made this like reflective thing in Video Editor and put a crowd clapping sound behind it.
What the heck?
And I was like, yeah, post it. And it went like it went off, like to the point where one of like my best friend's partners had sent through a photo of like this weird piece of ginger that he'd found. He's like, it looks like a rhino. I'm going to send it to Corrupted Veggies. So he sent it to me and I reposted. I was like, sick, yeah, cool. And then my friend said to him, she's like, you know, that's Hannah. And he's like, what? And she's like, yeah, that's Hannah's account. And he's like, no, it's anonymous. She's like, no, it's Hannah. And then I come over. I'm like, hey, thanks for the thing. He's like, that's you? And I was like, yeah, sometimes I can be funny, I suppose.
Lots of vegetables. That's so
yeah. So like, I sort of noticed, I was like, oh, it kind of came out the edges. And when it sort of started to come out those edges, and I'd sort of said to my friends I was working in health with, I said, you know, like, I think I just want to start pursuing art. I don't think I want to be involved in health. I think I'm getting the confidence back to go and be creative again. And I actually said to them, I think I want to try stand-up comedy. And then they held an intervention for me. They're like, look, we love you, but we just think you need to be very serious. And, you know, this going around and doing other bits of art, you just need to focus. You're very good at helping people. Just pick an avenue in health. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to move to England. And then moved to England to pursue acting. And I was going to keep doing Corrupted Veggies, but it was too hard to get the vegetables, basically. Yeah. And so anyway, so then I started the podcast because I was thinking, like, during all of that time, when I had been away from creativity and then having to come back into it, the really strangest feeling happened. Like, I remember one of my friends asked me to come and paint a mural on the wall of her cafe, and I hadn't touched paints in years. And I just wanted to do it. Like, I actually had a visceral reaction to it. Like, I had an anxiety attack and I hated it. And I was like, oh my God, it's horrible. And I put like a chair in front of it. I was like, yuck, 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 yuck. And I went home and I was really upset. And I was like, that's weird, man. Why are you so upset? And it, like, you know, like, all creativity is an expression of the self, and there's a vulnerability that comes with that. And I realized, I was like, oh, I don't know how to be vulnerable with my creativity and my thoughts and those sorts of things. And I thought other people must feel like this. And so when I got to a point where I was kind of pursuing my creativity quite a lot and already doing comedy and overcoming those resistances within trying to learn how to do comedy, I wanted to be able to give something back to other artists, and I wanted to also keep learning myself. So I started this podcast, which is called You're Weird, and it's about overcoming creative resistances like having a mental block, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, all these things that I was like, I live like buried under them. Let's talk about them. And that's why I created it. Yeah.
Genius. I love that.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, absolute pleasure to have you today on Legends of Bevo of the comedy version, Hannah Sainty. What's happening for the rest of 2024 and how can people follow you?
best place to follow me is on Instagram. That's where all of the boomers go. It is Hannah_Sainty. And what's coming up for the rest of the year? The rest of the year, I'm actually rewriting my Look Who's Talking Now show to start touring that next year. And then I'm writing a new show. So that's very exciting. I'm also going to be launching a very limited edition bunch of t-shirts that I drew funny cartoons on, because why not? YOLO, bro. And you can follow me on Instagram or just check out the website hannahsainty.com. You can find it all.
Love that. And will you be here for the Adelaide Fringe in 2025?
Yes, I should be, yes.
Amazing. We might have to do this again.
Yeah, totally.